SoloScout here. Today we're taking the CRF300L on a little shakedown run. There is an upgraded shock on the rear end of this little Honda. Hey, SoloScout here. So today we are going to be installing this K-TECH aftermarket rear shock into the CRF300L. This is a greatly improved suspension piece, and we're going to take a few measurements, nothing scientific, but we're going to take a few measurements of how the bike sits with the factory shock installed, and then what it looks like afterwards. And we'll be doing those with my standard day pack fixed, and we'll take a look at it without the pack on it. But this is always on the bike, so we might as well get the before and after shots with the day pack on. But this guy right here comes from Dualing Moto. My very good friend is going to be replacing his CRF300L with a CB300R, and he decided to take his Go Fast goodies off the CRF before he trades it in. So he was gracious enough to send this along to me, and we appreciate him very much. So let's get to it. .31¼ to the corner of the rack, going through the axle nut down to the ground. 31¼ resting. .25½. And there's that unload where it just. And of course, this scale is not scientifically calibrated in any way, but I'll show you that it's not an empty bag. So what we got there? Looks like about 20 pounds of gear. Axle with the load, we are at 29½. 25¼ suspension, but with much less muss. Much less unload. I'm sure when I get off the bike, it's not going to. See, there wasn't that huge. Once again, thanks to Dualing Moto, the CRF300L now has an aftermarket adjustable heavy person shock on it. If you've been watching my videos, you'll know that a rear suspension upgrade was very low on the list, not due to importance, but due to the cost. The suspension upgrades are not cheap. The cost, I'm sure, will come down over time. I had considered purchasing just a replacement spring for the stock shock. Even that was $180 with the proper collars. So a rear suspension was just on the back burner. But good friend of mine, and you've seen him in my videos, Dualing Moto, is trading in his CRF300L and getting a bike better suited to his riding area and his requirements, I should say. So let's get to this shock here. right off the bat that the shock or the suspension, the whole riding experience is much firmer. You get a lot more road information, terrain information transmitted up into the seat. So that seat upgrade, it's going to be critical before too long. The stock suspension, it dulled the information coming from the road to your seat. But with this new shock, this K-Lite, you really get a sense of what's going on under the wheels. So that's one thing. Now, we just went over some pretty good bumps back there. On the old suspension, I'd probably still be bouncing up and down, and a little more, I don't want to say aggressive, but a little more pronounced in the bounce. Whereas this shock still has suspension, obviously, but the up and down isn't as drastic. So I'm moving a lot quicker than I used to on this stuff. Now, I have the rebound damping on 6 clicks. I think it's 6. It could be 8, but I think it's 6. That's nowhere near the middle. I think the middle, as Dualing Moto shared with me, is 16. So that's 16 out of 32 possible clicks. And I've got it nowhere near the middle. I like to have a little more springiness, only because of that terrain transmitting up into the seat business we talked about. You know, I still want to have that cushiness, but it is so much more controlled now. I mean, I'm going back and forth over these 2 tracks, and I'm not getting that rear end kick up into the air like I did with the old suspension. You know, my weight would push it down nearly to the bottom, and then I'd get a little lift from a bump and off we'd go. But with this one, you know, that rear end lift is much more controlled. Knowing what I know now, riding this shock, I probably would have put the shock up in priority, maybe a spot or 2, but the cost is still just so prohibitive for me. So without Dualing Moto's generosity of giving me this shock, I still probably would not have upgraded the rear suspension. Would have just dealt with it the way that it was. And Dualing Moto, when he makes that lateral move from a CRF to a CB style bike, this is not what he's looking for, what I'm doing right here. And I don't do this every single day, but I know that I want to do it, and so I need a bike that I can do it and do it well. Not perfectly, obviously, but do it well. And this bike still does that. So let's see what we got here. We're gonna not fall down this time. We're gonna try to keep our feet on the ground. Watch our clutch. There we go. So we're sticking with the CRF platform, and like I said in earlier videos, we're going to not push the bike too far in one direction or the other. We're not going to try to upgrade it so much for the street that we lose the off-road, and we're not going to push it so far upgrading the off-road that we lose the street. I know that I can't claim a perfect 50-50 balance between street riding and off-road riding, but I'm pretty darn close on a day-to-day basis. So we want to keep the bike as best as we can capable of on-road and off-road. So here we are at Lost Lake. That was a pretty decent test. For the shock there. Now this is a good test here, going uphill on the loose gravel to feel how much pressure is put on that rear wheel. Well, not so much pressure, but the consistent pressure, rather than having that rear wheel easily lifted off the surface. I believe that upgraded shock helps maintain the rear wheel onto the riding surface for better control, and that's a big help. So once again, another positive or very noticeable difference in the upgraded suspension. There we go. See right there, we felt the going up the little bump there, but we didn't continue to bounce. Even though we were sitting down, we didn't bounce up and down with the upgraded shock. Just, even though I've only got either 6 or 8 clicks on the rebound, which gives me more cushion than some might like, I don't get that continuous bouncing motion. So plus all the way around. Even at 39 miles an hour, it just feels like good contact in the back. There we go. Got a little bit of suspension lift there without the continuous bouncing and ginormous amounts of travel. I think that's what bothered me the most, rather than just the fact that the suspension was so soft, but that there was such a huge amount of travel. And of course that comes from a background of riding CB platform bikes rather than CRF platform bikes. Another forest road heading off to one of the popular spots for, oh, that was a good dip there, for deer hunting and such. Yep, the shock is really keeping the tire on the surface there. Almost looks like broken chip and seal there. Yep, look at us go. Woo. That's a good one. Here's another one. Oh, they haven't brought the brush hogs down this way in a while. Oh yeah. Yeah, still get the bump, but you don't get the bounce. Big difference. And look down, you'll see my feet are still about the same height, or the bike under load is about the same height that it was with the stock suspension. I'm still flat-footed and can extend my knees up a bit, but I didn't lose any riding height, I guess is what I'm getting at. All right. Yep, I think where I've got the rebound is just about right for me. I get just enough cushion. Here we go. Oh yeah. Here's another one. Very nice. Yes, much less chatter in the back. Here's a good one. Oh yeah. Much less chatter in the back. Means we're keeping a better contact to the road. Here we are at the pavement, and we'll give it a test to see what it handles like on pavement. Yeah, so I can definitely feel the road, you know, in the seat. It is more pronounced. You know, it's not jarring or anything like that. There's still plenty of cushion in the suspension, but you definitely get a lot more feedback from the road. I hope my comments on the K-TECH RAZOR-R LITE low version has given a little bit of insight on what it does and doesn't do to the bike. And yes, I do recommend it. I'd recommend any of the shock upgrades. I mean, as you get to the bigger names that go beyond two-way adjustable into three-way adjustable, I mean, obviously it's only going to get better. The biggest improvement though is having a suspension sprung for your average load, and that's something I really recommend you doing, is getting that rear suspension sprung for the average load that you put on the bike. Makes a ginormous difference, as you can see. All right, appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you next time. This is SoloScout. We are RTB. This is SoloScout. I'm Oscar Mike.